All right. Yeah. Are we? I think we're live. Come on
Okay.
now. Oh, what did this do? Let's see. Yeah, I think it's still working. Do do do. Just a second here.
Sure.
Just trying to confirm if there we are. We are actually live. All
Okay.
right. Excellent.
Good.
Ah, yay, technical issues.
I know they happen every time.
Oh my gosh. This is COFOH Live and Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am with the magnificent Dennis Vincent, filmmaker extraordinaire. And Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Daniel?
Oh, wonderful. I love your backdrop. Holy
Oh,
cow.
well, thank you. Yeah, we're broadcasting live from the mummy's tomb.
Oh, that's
Got the
sweet.
mummy with me too. He's a silent partner, but he's joined me.
I hear he has a lot of rage in him. It's nice that he's
So,
kind of
yeah,
simmered down.
yeah, he did. Yeah, well, he got a lot of it out in the movie. I think a lot of that frustration. Now he's resting. If you saw the movie, I don't know if you've seen it, but
I actually, and I should have reached out to you sooner, but I was trying to hunt it down.
oh,
I saw it had a place on Amazon Prime, and it wasn't
mhm.
available there. And then
It's
I was,
not now.
yeah,
Yeah, well, it's actually good news because
okay.
actually it got picked up by a distributor, so they had me take it down. So it's going to be put out by Wild Eyed Releasing,
Oh,
and yeah.
congratulations!
So thank you. Yeah. So Rob, and now if I can say his last name, I think it's Hauschild. Yeah, Rob
Okay.
Hauschild. He's the head of that company of
Mm-hmm.
Wildlife Releasing. But they believed in the project, even though I'd already had it up on Amazon, and
Uh-huh.
it was kind of living in obscurity there for a while. And they believed in it. And I think they're going to give it some, hopefully give it some recognition that it deserves. So they really believed in the project and they wanted to do it. So I was happy about it. So it'll be out September. Sometime in September, it'll be out on a DVD and in VOD as well. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's wonderful. Just in time for my birthday. I love it.
Oh, good.
That's great. Well, and you directed two other documentaries too before that, right?
Yeah, that's how I got my start, pretty much. I think
Mm.
some filmmakers do that just because it's so much easier because you're not working with actors if you're doing what they call narrative pieces, which are films that with actors and things like that.
Right.
Not to say that documentaries can't; they do that with their reenactments and stuff, and that would involve the same kind of narratives that you would need, and that's really complicated. Not to say documentary it is, but it's an easier place to start because you're pretty much doing interviews for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easier to control. It's more manageable, and it gives you a chance to learn. You cut your teeth on that, learning how to put a story together, and then get all your reference material and stuff that you're going to need for that interview.
Right.
Your cutaways and B-roll, things like that, what they're talking about, and so it's more manageable than to do a narrative. A narrative is a bigger step. So I started doing that first. I started doing documentary. So I did two documentaries, and
Cool.
and then this is my third film. So Rage of the Mummy is I attempted other films, but they didn't work out for financial reasons,
Mm-hmm.
or a couple of them were that my lead actress left,
Oh,
lost to Hollywood, and this happens, as an independent, you're on a shoestring budget, and
yeah.
it gets expensive, and you can't control all these things. So it's a lot of work, and of all the art forms, film is the most expensive art form there is, unfortunately, and it's the one I enjoy, but I just want to do it. And I think as an artist, you find out what it is you can express yourself through the best. Some people are
Mm-hmm.
best at expressing themselves through dancing,
Yeah.
acting, or music, or whatever it may be. But this is the one I felt I express myself the best in. But I started off as a painter. That's really my background. I didn't go to film school.
Nice.
So yeah.
What kind of painting?
I did what they call, the pop surrealism is really what I'm. So it's sort of the lowbrow kind of work,
Okay.
Kenny Scharf and anything that comes out of Juxtapose magazine.
Yeah.
That's kind of my genre. That's kind of the group that I've been put into.
So a little bit of like that outsider art.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing is really what I did. It's what I saw. I went to school for that, and I did get my BFA from the Hartford Art School, and I graduated with that. And I started painting for a while. I did okay with it, but I really needed to go to New York City to do that, and that was something that I really couldn't do at the time.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, so this is how I got into film, because I wasn't even thinking I was going to do it. I said, all right, well, if I can't go to New York City, because I was, living in Connecticut, and I had a child already, and I was married, and my wife didn't want to go, and so I said, okay, well, if I can't go up to New York, I think I will probably do instructional art videos. Mm-hmm. So that's what I decided to do. So I started doing instructional art videos. I hadn't got anything done yet. I had just started, and I was learning how to do it. Now, I did take courses up at Boston University on filmmaking a little bit. So it was a 4-day course. So they told you what sound was. Here's a camera, a camcorder at the time, because we used digital tape at the time. I should give you this. This is 2004 is when I went to this school to learn this. So I took 4 classes, and with that, I went out and bought everything they had given us at the in the class, and I started shooting some instructional art videos, started putting them together. And then I got interested in monsters, because I didn't really grow up. I had seen them as a kid, so I've never. It's like people think that I was involved with monsterdom since I was a child, like I liked all the Frankenstein and all that, but I really wasn't. I had seen some of these things, but I wasn't a fanatic, and I watched a lot. I'd seen film, but that really wasn't something I thought I would go into. And there was what really started was Rob Zombie. I liked Rob Zombie's music. And I liked him when he was actually in White Zombie.
Yeah, back in the 90s.
And I started collecting the music, but I started looking at the covers and the inside and their videos. I'm thinking they're covering monsters. So I thought, I want to put these monsters into my artwork, like painting Frankenstein and all these things. I wanted to do that. And I started doing that. And when I started painting these monsters, I didn't know anything about them. I had never seen some of these movies. I'd only seen up to that point was Son of Frankenstein, and The Wolfman, and I think Island of Terror. Those are the only ones that really stood out to me as a kid, and I didn't really know the others. So I started buying these magazines, which was, film, the Filmland magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland, which they had revised again in '92. So I started going through it. I had never seen these movies, and I started getting fascinated more with the movies than with the artwork that I was doing. And so then there was, I didn't know where to see them, because I knew there was this time they had Blockbusters. And I went in and they had some titles, but there was a lot of titles they didn't have like I wanted to see, know. And so one day there was somebody in our town that was showing these movies. They actually showed them on film. They would show a lot of these features. And he ran a museum, his own wax museum there in Connecticut. It was called the Witch's Dungeon. So what it was a wax museum that was to keep the memories of people like Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney, and his own uncle. His uncle was the first werewolf of London, which was Henry Hall. And if you've ever seen that movie, but that was in 1935, I believe. Okay. So he was connected to a lot of some of these stars, and they had supported the museum. Well, once he started showing all these movies that were not at the museum, but they were showing it in the theater, I got to know him. He showed me his museum and all these things, and I started going. I just forgot about my artwork. Yeah. And I said, "Would you care if I just did like a 10-minute documentary on your museum, the Witch's Dungeon?" He said, "No, not at all." So he knew people like Sarah Karloff, the daughter of Boris Karloff. Yeah. The Cheneys, Bela Lugosi Jr. I started interviewing all these people. And Dick Smith, if you know who Dick Smith is, So he knew Dick Smith, who lived actually in Brantford, Connecticut. So he only lived 40 minutes from where I lived.
Oh, that's cool.
Went down to his house. He showed us all his things. We had a great interview with him. It just went on. The list went on. Pretty soon, we ended up with a 2-hour documentary, and that was my first movie. So that's what I did. This was it right here. This was back in 2006.
Nice.
And,
can you hold it a little bit over to the side?
Yep.
Oh,
okay.
Cool. Nice.
Back in 2006, and this did quite well. So we had a lot of people. So this is before YouTube. YouTube really came out, 2005, February 2005. So YouTube was really kind of in its infancy. So there wasn't a lot of interviews that you would find. So that's why I did incredibly well. We had interviews, like I said. We actually had Christopher Lee in this.
Oh, sweet.
Christopher Lee. So Christopher Lee's in this. And
fresh off of Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, and he's mostly known for the Dracula Hammer horror films, but which is what he talked about, because this was before Lord of the Rings. But,
nice.
So anyway, that was the first one. So after that, we started going to. I went with him sometimes to the conventions, the film convention. I should say fan conventions. They're really not film conventions,
Yeah.
So things like the Monster Bash, cool. And many of those, like in Ohio, New Jersey.
Yeah.
We went to Chiller, places like that. And I just got the bug. I just said, "Oh, this is great." So I thought, well, what can I do with my second movie, I wanted to do maybe another documentary.
Yeah.
So I was actually at Wonderfest in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the largest, what they call, what do they call these? They're monster kits, but they're
the model kits?
They're figure model kits. So it's the largest convention.
Like little resins?
Right. And I used to go there to that convention. And so the guy who ran the show, which was Dave Conover, he said, well, why don't you do one on the Aurora Monster model kits? No one has ever done a documentary on that. And some people don't know what those are. But anyway, this was the second documentary. This is if you can see it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So this was the second one, called the Aurora Monster model kits. And it was what those were, and if you know some of the history of how the monsters came back, because these movies were all shot, the early ones were shot in the 30s, right, and up to the 40s.
Yep.
But when television came in, they were looking for content for their programming, because TV was new.
Yeah.
So Universal let them re-release them. They licensed these out to all the television stations in the United States, and they said to themselves, well, we don't want these to be too scary, because we know the kids. We wanted to market this pretty much for the kids. So they started having horror hosts. So that's how horror hosts came around. Okay. So you had Vampira and Zachary Lee, who Zachary Lee is in this. We had Zachary. He was the horror host in New York City in the 60s. He's the one on all those famous Monster magazine covers.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we got him to host this. But they started, so they became famous again. So that was a re-release. And then that's when they knew that. So the monster craze started from about 62 to about 64. So it was only around for about a couple of years. And they started making model kits because they became so popular with the kids. They wanted some sort of, souvenir from those movies they were watching on TV. And it was huge. I mean, you don't know how big those kits are. Now these people, I'm now 57, but I have these things came out because I was only 2 years old or 1 year old when the Monsterdom actually stopped. I was born in '63, but anyway,
you're a spring chicken.
What's that?
You're a spring chicken.
Oh, I know. So these guys actually, the guys that are about 10 years older than me, they were the ones that were really into this. So I'm really too young for that kind of thing. But this DVD really did quite well. It's been shown all over the place, and it's done, really, really well. And that was my second one. But at this point, this was in 2010, so it took me some time to get the money that I needed to finance the next film. But it was well worth it. And but after that, I didn't really want to do documentary work anymore. We had already interviewed so many people that were going to be for other documentaries we'd done. It wasn't just for model kits. The people that were in this were just people that were pretty much involved with the model kit, phenomenon. like the guy who painted the covers, James Bama.
Yep.
And then there was the guy that did who actually sculpted the tooling and all that they call it, who was in this too, Ray Myers.
Nice.
And we had interviewed other people. So since this guy knew other celebrities, we'd interviewed a lot of people from the Creature from the Black Lagoon. We interviewed all those people that were in it, and in other films and other movies. And I started to, like, Dee Wallace and George Romero.
Yep.
And I started thinking, well, I want to do what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're doing movies that are, with actors and narrative pieces. And I said, that's really what I want to do.
Yeah.
This was a great start for me, I think, for the documentary. But I really want to do my own thing.
Cool.
And so that's what happened. So I moved back to Colorado, which is my home state. I was actually born and raised here. I left here when I was 23.
Denver?
And I lived out there for about 25 years. And then I came back in 2010. So I've been here ever since.
Okay.
And I had to restart and network with people here and really start to hone my skills as a filmmaker. I kind of learned off their projects. They did a lot of short projects, and I learned from that and learned their mistakes and and things like that, and got better at it. And so then I decided to do Rage of the Mummy. But it took time because I had done other films that just didn't get off the ground. They didn't happen, and Rage of the Mummy was really kind of an accident that kind of happened. There was another movie I was going to make. It was called Creepy Island. It was sort of a Goosebumps.
Oh, that would have been that would be cool, huh?
Yeah, I still have the script. I mean, but I needed about $80,000 to $100,000 to do that movie.
Okay.
I had found some funding for that. There was somebody who was going to greenlight that for me, give me money. Fortunately, they passed away, and I wasn't able to do it. So family members and whatever money I had, where I was able to raise the $23,000 that I needed to shoot Rage of the Mummy, and that was the budget for that movie. Okay. And I went ahead and did that. It took me about 3 years, but we finally got it released in November of 2018.
Nice.
And ever since then, I've been working, and I don't do this for a living, because it's really hard. Yeah. And it doesn't pay a lot, and so I've been Uber driving this last few months or so, and I've been making pretty good. So I should now. This coronavirus has killed a lot of the business opportunity that I would have had for this. But so I'm not going to be able to shoot anything this year. What I will be doing though is I've been asked to shoot a movie in Pennsylvania. Oh, cool! So I was asked to direct and write a movie over there. It's a werewolf movie, which I'm actually writing right now. Cool. And so I'd already promised to shoot then, so that's the reason I can't shoot even next summer. I'll be up in Pennsylvania shooting a feature there. So the following year, in 2022, I should be able to pick up my next film, which is an anthology film, and it's called Discord. But that title will be changed. They're going to use that one. And that one is they're basically murder mysteries surrounded by supernatural elements. So there's 5 stories plus the wraparound.
Nice. So any room for Scooby in the game?
I'm hoping, because I love that movie. It's fun. It's not it's pretty much, it's a G rating, or at least a PG rating. Yeah. It's something that Disney would, around that kind of, rating, I would say. Same thing with actually Rage of the Mummy. The Rage of the Mummy is really a mild kind of feature as well, which was one of the reasons they wanted it, because it doesn't have any bad language, there's no nudity, and there's really very little gore in it. I think there's one scene with the mummy where he stabs someone with the sword, of course, and pulls it out, and it's got quite a bit of blood on it. And that was my buddy who wanted it on there. He's like, no, you need more blood. I'm like, oh, come on, let's not get crazy. You
can always say that the actor was filled with pomegranate juice.
Yeah, you could. That's true.
Yeah, that's he was very well hydrated.
Yeah, it's just jelly.
It's just jelly. Yeah.
Well, but yeah, that movie is pretty much it wouldn't scare a 7-year-old. It's really, that inspiration for that movie came from The Abominable Dr. Phibes, the Vincent Price film. If you've ever seen that. It was that kind of subtle humor. So it's a comedy, but it's not a real hard belly laugh. It's just a subtle humor. Yeah. And that's really what it was. It's a very simplistic story. It's just about a group of occultists who steal the relics from the mummy's tomb because they possessed powers, and they thought they would enable them with powers to use their psychic abilities with these things. But of course, the mummy always has to come back when you take the relics and, take revenge. And this guy chops heads off. So it's a mummy with a sword, which was a new twist, because most of the mummy movies don't do that.
Yeah. Most mummies don't articulate very well. They don't really, do any of that.
There's always strangling, or they throw people out windows and stuff like that.
They're almost like a grade away from your zombie, but probably a little bit more calculating, and they have taste.
That's right. Yeah. So that's what that was about. The next one is a totally 180. It's just full of everything you can imagine, So that one's going to be a lot of fun to do. And then this werewolf movie is he really wants it more like an 80s flick, something in that genre.
Right.
So I have that in my head as far as direction goes. As far as a story, it could be anything. There's really not an 80s story or script writing because they're all the same. That's why we have, remakes anyway. The only thing is they change the environment and the language,
Yeah.
But it's pretty much the essence of the same story. So
so you're essentially going to be, gathering the essence of that film, that genre.
Right. I mean, I want more of. It'll probably have more of that look than it will anything else. But that's what he's looking. Saturated colors and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. When I was watching the trailer for Rage of the Mummy. I noticed, and as you mentioned before, you were able to connect with a lot of the local talent here in Colorado and Denver. I noticed, Kevin Ward and Richard Taylor and Terena, was in there too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all local filmmakers, like Richard did Adam the Amazing Zombie Killer a few years ago and stuff. So Richard? Yeah. Oh yeah. I know a few of those faces in there. There's probably a few more that if I look closer, I'll probably recognize.
Yeah.
We probably met in dark alleys. Who knows? Knowing Denver.
Yeah, exactly.
But coming back and being able to collaborate in there. I mean, coming from a painter's background to film, that's quite a leap. But it's something that I've been hearing a lot more. I mean, I have my own fine art background, and I do the occasional short film project, and but you hear of guys like Taika Waititi, who was a painter too, and decided.
David Lynch was another one.
Yeah, David Lynch. That's a good one.
He went to school for fine arts and ended up doing film. Yeah, even Orson Welles did. He was a painter. He was he liked doing actually mostly not comic books, but cartoon characters. He was going to be an illustrator. That's really what he wanted to do.
Nice.
And that's how he ended up in film.
Yeah,
we ended there. I don't know how we do.
Yeah,
there's one ended up being filmmakers.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like something like painting, which can be very isolating. You can do it all by yourself. And then go into another visual medium, but one that requires a large collaboration of different disciplines and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you find, that, well, actually talking to you for the first time, you're incredibly social.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd imagine, it probably wasn't, too much of a departure except for, just the organizational aspect, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, actually, it was really a different thing for me. I was actually a very shy person.
Oh, no kidding.
That all changed when I moved here because I took acting. The reason I did, I took acting with Patrick Sheridan. He was a beloved actor and teacher here, coach in Denver. Unfortunately, he passed away from colon cancer a few years ago. But he taught me so much. And the reason I even took acting at all was because I had interviewed a lot of actors, a lot of them. And one thing they never talked about was their craft. And there was only one person I ever asked about their craft, and that was Brett Halsey. And Brett Halsey was in, he was in a Felici film. I can't remember the name of it now. He was a killer in this one. But anyway, he'd done a lot of Westerns. He'd been around a lot. a long time, and I asked him about it, and he was the only one to give me my first lesson in acting, which I thought was really amazing. But I knew that eventually, if I was going to do these narrative pieces, that I didn't know. I was scared of actors. I didn't know what they did. I had no idea how I was going to direct them to tell them what to do. They knew more what they were doing than I did, So when I took acting, it did two things. It actually taught me about how to work with actors.
Okay.
And I've been working with them now for a good 10 years now. And it also pulled me out of my shell because I was a very shy person, extremely shy. And I think that's why I actually became a painter and artist, because I would sit in a room, by myself, have my cigarettes, I'd turn my music up, and I could just paint to my heart's content. But then when the day of the opening came and I had to go out there and meet people, I was drinking because it was the only way I could do it. I was
the icebreaker.
Shaking like a leaf because I just couldn't talk to people.
Yeah.
Just to show you how bad it was, one year I had won an award. I took a top prize for one of my paintings.
Cool.
And it was neat because I got to hang actually with Andy Warhol in a Picasso painting along with this award. And they had it was a black tie dinner, everything. The guy who won second had a prepared speech. He went up there on the podium and gave this long speech about, what he did. And I took the first prize and I went up there and I went, "Thank you." And I sat down. That was it. And the MC comes up and he goes, "A man, a few words," because I was too shy. I turned bright red. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But after I got through the acting and after I learned to, actually have the confidence to direct people and direct the 14 people plus a crew and all that, you get out of your shell real quick.
Yeah.
And you become social, and you start to learn how to work with people, because when you work with actors, you're working with different personalities, and some of them you have to hold their hand and get them through the scene. That wasn't true with these actors, but all my actors are really good for Rage of the Mummy. I love them all. I thought that for me, it was one of the features of the film. The actors, there's not a poor actor among them. They were so good, and I was so proud of their acting. It's one of the things that I like about the film, and I think that's one thing that kind of gives it a hallmark, that it doesn't look like an amateur film because the acting is good. You can always tell an amateur film when you see the acting is just like really bad. Yeah. And the worst acting was probably me, because I was the mummy. And
I heard you're stiff.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. The thing was that I tried to look at some of Christopher Lee's performances, and when he was in The Mummy, and some of the others like Lon Chaney. Yeah. And I couldn't do it. It's amazing how good you have to be when you're not even talking. You're just you're just doing mime. Yeah. And my walking's different each time. Yeah. It's just, sometimes it looks like I'm going for a stroll. Other times I'm just moving kind of very slow and deadpan. And so I wasn't good at that.
Is it just kind of like the nuance, getting those little nuances to pontificate?
I think it's more of studying what it's like to be in a suit, because there's more to it than just. And they did that. Actually, they learned that, Hollywood did that. They did that a lot. They would just put the stunt actor in a gorilla suit, or put him in a suit and expect him to do it. Yeah. And when you get people like Doug Jones, if you know Doug Jones, the guy is amazing. Okay, so that's real acting in a costume. And that's something you really need to study. Something there is a specific school just to learn how to act in a suit. How to do that. So that's something I would have to spend more time doing. I did it because it was convenient for me to be around, because I was available. Right. Now I'm better as an actor, without makeup on, and I'm just there, doing a one-on-one. But as the mummy, I think that was too much for me. But I did okay. I pulled it off.
Directing in that costume too, that must not have been that easy.
No, it wasn't. There's pictures of me in the suit with the camera. They're funny scenes, but you have to do it, And that film just taught me how to make a narrative. I just wanted to see, can I do a decent production? Can I really do this? But it did. It taught me a lot about lighting. Taught me a lot about working with crew. Taught me about things that I thought were really important turned out not to be important. Things that I didn't think were important are really important. Sure. So I learned a lot making that film. So I think I'm really prepared for my next one. And that's the reason I kept it really simple. Yeah. Because if I had to do some really strong, dramatic scenes, I would be there too much wrapped up. I was worried more about technical
Yeah.
learning lighting and making sure I was getting the best audio I could and that kind of thing. Just making sure that the production went smooth.
Right.
But most of the time that it took me to do that was really in all the second unit production work. The principal work was actually done probably one summer. We did it all in about 2.5 months. I got everyone that I needed. The rest of them were just the cutaways of the mummy alone. So those I shot on my own. A lot of those shots, I didn't have any help. I did it myself. I put the lighting, and I did it myself. But I had to do about 75 takes, so I made sure I was in focus and I was on my mark and all those things.
You really learn a lot, like that, putting yourself through the ropes as you did. There's nothing like baptism by fire. If you're going to learn how to do it, you might as well jump in.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's the thing about film. Like, I learned a lot. Like, even as a painter, I remember there was times where I learned so much about painting before I even put the first stroke on the canvas. And you can't do that because it's like there's got to be a time you just got to jump in because the best teacher is actually experience.
Right.
And that's really what happened. Even though I had been working on, countless films here in Denver, countless independent small, features, shorts that we had done, they weren't mine. But when I actually had the chance to do my own, that you really do learn a lot.
Yeah.
It's easy to sit on the sidelines and criticize, but when you're in that seat, it's not that easy.
No, it's not.
It's call action and cut, but it's not like that. There's more to it. You got to be able to contribute more than what actors would have already been doing. Mm-hmm. So if you weren't there and somebody just called action, the actors would already do their lines, and all that. But a director really needs to do more than that. You need to contribute more. You need to be there to support the performance and be able to be there as a guide, and really have control of what's going on. Yeah. You need to contribute more than the just say action or cut. And when you can do that, then that's really what you learn. You learn to do, at least to be an efficient director. That's what you need to do.
I think that's some tremendous insight. I want to take the moment too to remind people that we are live and to feel free to ask us, to ask Dennis. Don't bother asking me any questions. Ask Dennis some questions because you've got him here for another half an hour or so, and feel free to jump on there. We've got a number of likes and hearts and stuff, but feel free to ask some questions and stuff. Filmmaking's one of those things where you've got so many cogs in the wheel that it can be very easy to derail. Do you find that can be the case, or are you able to really make a strength out of some type of mess up or a failure or something?
I don't know if I heard everything you said. I think you kind of broke up on me a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try this again. With any type of somebody. Why would anyone listen? Okay. So anyway, if in filmmaking with so many different disciplines that have to kind of coordinate, it's pretty easy to kind of derail a project or to experience a failure. Do you find that you are able